Hi, and welcome to Viewmaster Travels, where we actually visit the locations featured in vintage Viewmaster reels and try to learn something about them. Today it's reel SP9002, The Trees of Mystery. Plus, we'll look at some of reels 111 and 112, The Redwood Highway. For this, we bought a copy of the Tales and Chronicles book by Debbie Thompson, which covers the attraction's history. It was just published a few months ago, so we were really lucky to find it. Trees of Mystery is a few miles north of Klamath on the north coast of California. It's a roadside attraction that's celebrating its 75th anniversary this year. The Viewmaster pictures were taken in 1948, so they were taken soon after the park opened. This was a really fun trip, so let's get started. Approaching Trees of Mystery. The Trees of Mystery is on what's called the Redwood Highway, which was built starting in the 1920s to connect San Francisco to Oregon and on to Seattle. This was when roads were unpaved, unlit, and had few bridges. To get there, we drove over the Golden Gate Bridge and headed north. Originally, you'd have had to take a ferry across the bay, and this journey would take days, but for us it just took several hours. When the highway was first completed, many locals wanted to attract travelers to the area who could now get there by car. And when we reached Leggett at the south end of the Avenue of the Giants, we came across our first evidence of this. This is Chandelier Tree at Underwood Park. This was the first roadside attraction we came across, a tree you can drive through, an attraction designed specifically for cars, built to get drivers to stop and spend some money. It was added in 1937 and still serves its original purpose today. We did exactly what travelers over the last 85 years had done, pulled off, paid the fee, drove through the tree, and kept on going. After Leggett, the main highway bypasses the original Redwood Highway, but the original road still exists and is known as the Avenue of the Giants. Then the road reaches the coast and the port town of Eureka before continuing north past several very small towns. Eventually, we arrived at Motel Trees, although in total darkness, and a mysterious giant figure loomed out from the fog at us as we pulled in. The next morning, we realized what it was. Paul Bunyan greets travelers. The Trees of Mystery was purchased by Ray and Mary Lee Thompson at the end of World War II in 1946, and one of the first things they did was add a giant statue of Paul Bunyan at the entrance. The one we're seeing in the Viewmaster image isn't the original though. The original was made of paper mache and melted from the rain within the year. This one replaced it in 1947, just a year before this picture was taken. And that one was replaced with the current one in 1962, and Babe the Bull was added in 1951. Paul is almost 50 feet tall and weighs 28,000 pounds. He's animated and can talk to the visitors. Being dwarfed next to Paul, who's dwarfed by the trees, really puts what you're about to see into perspective. We paid our fee, it seems all these roadside attractions charge a nominal fee, and hiked into the trees to find Upside Down Tree. You can see it looks much the same today. The Trees of Mystery was originally created by Carl Bruno in 1932 as a resort and nature park and was named Wonderland Park. Carl even built a very early attraction, a fountain on the highway in front of his gas station, which is still there today. Bruno eventually took on a partner, Carl Lewin, and Lewin found that the redwood grove on the property had trees that were really unusual. They gave names to the trees, opened a nature trail, and charged travelers a nickel to see them. Here's another one of the famous trees, Octopus Tree. The trees look mostly unchanged today, although the trail has been marked with rails, so you can't get exactly the same view now. The tour used to be guided, but now you can wander around on your own. In 1939, Ripley's Believe It or Not, which was a syndicated newspaper cartoon showcasing unbelievable facts and was read by over 80 million people at the time, it featured some of the trees, making the place famous overnight. When that happened, Lewin and Bruno raised admission to 25 cents, making it a true roadside attraction. The Cathedral Tree. When the Thompsons bought the park from Lewin in 1946, they renamed it Trees of Mystery and have been improving it ever since. They added a large gift shop, a restaurant across the street, a world-class museum, a lovely motel, and they expanded the park. They held events like Easter and wedding services at Cathedral Tree. Recently, they added suspension bridges so you can walk through the upper canopy. And they built a 1/3 mile-long gondola ride up to the top of the mountain, which has fantastic views. The Trees of Mystery has really grown into America's greatest roadside attraction. But there were other mysteries to solve on our trip through the trees. The Big Tree. This tree is one of the most famous named trees in the area and was easy to find in Prairie Creek Redwood State Park, just south of the Trees of Mystery. We took the scenic hike through the redwoods to find the tree, but realized that it's just off the road that runs through the park. Once you get there, you can see that the Big Tree is just another roadside attraction. It's easily accessible from a parking area that's been made for it. It's not even the biggest tree you could see, just the biggest you can see easily from your car. But if this had been a roadside attraction, why wasn't it on the main highway anymore? Turns out, the road it's on used to be the Redwood Highway, but sometime in the past, it had been rerouted for some unknown reason. To find out why, we followed the old highway route, through the dense forest and along an unpaved dirt road to a river where we found this. The remains of Douglas Bridge. This is where the Redwood Highway originally crossed the Klamath River. But in 1964, tragedy struck, as the greatest flood on record destroyed not just the bridge, but the entire town of Klamath. The bridge and town were rebuilt upstream, and the highway was diverted, leaving this section abandoned. So, the Big Tree roadside attraction wasn't on the roadside anymore. And for a while, the Trees of Mystery converted its gift shop into classrooms since the elementary school had been destroyed. However, the small town of Klamath never fully recovered. Next up, General Custer Tree. Finding this tree was another mystery. There's some reference to it online, but Big Tree Park doesn't seem to exist anymore. As we were waiting our turn to ride the SkyTrail gondolas, we watched a video about this giant tree we were standing next to, and were surprised to find it was the General Custer Tree. The Thompsons had expanded Trees of Mystery by buying Big Tree Park in 1947, which is why we couldn't find the park. And then they renamed the Custer Tree to the Brotherhood Tree in the mid-70s. So, mystery solved. The Custer Tree is now the Brotherhood Tree. And this tree really is big. It's 300 feet tall and 2,000 years old. Then we had another name change mystery. Here's Patrick's Point from Palmer Point. Patrick's Point should have been a state park south of Trees of Mystery, but our map didn't show it. We did find Patrick's Point Road, and we followed it to Palmer Point really early in the morning where we got this view. And while waiting for the sun to come out, we explored the park and learned that we'd had trouble finding it because its name had been changed to Sue Meg Park just months earlier. In the 1850s, a man named Patrick Began had led a militia to a local Native American village where hundreds of indigenous people were massacred, and this area had been named after him. In 2021, the local Yurok tribe had requested the state of California rename the park Sue Meg, which was the area's original name. The park was renamed in September of 2021. Our online maps showed the new name, which was why we couldn't find it. After lunch, as the sun poked through the fog, we went back to the point and matched the original ViewMaster image dead on. That view hasn't changed. And as we drove around the area, we came across a couple other roadside attractions. Redwood Shrine. It's another drive-through tree. It's in Myers Flat and was the very first roadside attraction on the Redwood Highway, originally letting horse-drawn wagons drive through. And this white line shows how high the water got during the 1964 flood that destroyed the Klamath Bridge. We paid our fee and drove through. Turns out there are only 3 coastal redwood drive-through trees remaining. This one, the Chandelier Tree, and the third one is this one. Tore Through Tree. This one's right in Klamath by the Trees of Mystery, so we paid our fee and drove through. And here's another roadside attraction. Treehouse at Lily Park. Not all of the original attractions seem to be doing well. This one's closed and seems abandoned. Like the Trees of Mystery, it benefited from a mention in Ripley's Believe It or Not, but it must be hard running a small attraction in such a very remote place like this. Finally, back at the Trees of Mystery, it's End of the Trail. This is the end of the trail carving done by Ambrose Grenke in 1939. It's carved almost entirely from a single redwood tree. It's a copy of an original sculpture done by James Earl Fraser for the Panama Exposition of 1915. The redwood version has stood unchanged on the roadside for 82 years now. I think that's a fitting end to this set of Viewmaster images. There's so much more that we discovered on this trip. The north coast of California and the Redwood Highway have a much more interesting history than we expected, and there's plenty more roadside attractions to see there. But that's all we have time for now. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.